I talk to AI founders almost every day, and I see a pattern. Most start off strong, but 9 out of 10 struggle to scale past the 5 to 10K MRR mark. Why? Because what nobody tells you is that while learning automation and landing some one-off projects is very doable, scaling an AI business is an entirely different game. Most AI agencies drown in never-ending custom builds, wondering if this is what they really wanted, and most vibe-coded AI SaaS founders launch code that nobody actually ever buys. So in this video, I'll give you a step-by-step guide on how to push past the 10K MRR mark and how to grow your AI business without hiring a huge team or praying for some big VC check. I'm Ben, and I've scaled both an AI agency and an AI product business past 50K MRR. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which model to choose and what to focus on today to actually scale an AI business. So I'll first cover why most people are struggling to scale an AI business. Then I'll cover the roadmap to scaling an AI product business. Then I'll cover quickly how to scale a non-AI service business now that we have AI. For example, as an existing marketing agency, this is often a model that's overlooked, but actually really interesting to scale now that we have AI. Then I'll cover the exact roadmap to scaling an AI automation agency or an AI agency. And lastly, I'll try to help you pick which model might be best for you in your situation. So the two most common business models people jump into when learning AI is, first of all, the AI automation agency, where we deliver AI automation services to businesses, helping them automate, enhance, and optimize their existing processes in their business. With platforms like N8N and Make.com, we can now quite easily do that. And then the second one is building an AI product, or often an AI SaaS. Now that we have tools like Cursor or Lovable, we can spin up an AI product or an AI SaaS quite quickly. Now, the big advantage of starting an AI automation agency delivering AI services is that there's no doubt that this is a huge and fastly growing market, right? Every business will have to adopt AI into their business to stay competitive in the marketplace. And if you've been learning or are learning platforms like N8N and Make.com, you'll notice that you can learn these tools and build valuable systems very quickly. In a couple of weeks, months, you can build systems and workflows and automation systems that really deliver value to businesses, right? So that's the huge upside of this model. At the moment, very few businesses have adopted AI yet in their businesses or automation in their businesses. And you, even learning this for a few weeks, really have value to deliver to businesses. And therefore, you can generate cash flow quite quick, right? There's a lot of FOMO in the market right now. Many businesses know that they have to adopt AI and automation into their business, but they lack the in-house expertise to actually set this up. So they're very happy to work with, and they're looking for people to help them out with this, right? So you can land some clients and projects quite quickly with this business model. And therefore, you also have a very steep learning curve, right? Because after a couple of weeks of learning, you might land your first client or your first project. And once you start building within a client's company, you'll notice that your learning curve steepens even more, right? So you can really quickly learn how to work with AI services. Now, if you've been running this model for the last months or weeks, you will also notice that there are some challenges to mostly getting this business model stable and to actually scale this business model, right? You'll quickly notice once you start doing this that scoping projects is actually very difficult, right? If a business comes to you with a project, an automation project, you'll quickly notice that knowing exactly what to do from the start is very difficult. So a lot of times what you'll see with your first project is that these projects drag out a lot longer than you initially expected, right? That also you need a lot of project and client management when delivering these services. You need to work very closely with the business to automate their processes, to understand their internal processes before automating it. And a lot of times you first of all have to improve the actual processes before you start automating it, because you quickly notice that many businesses are not run very efficiently in the first place yet. Then second, you'll also notice that if you're landing some clients, to get this business stable, you do need consistent lead flow, right? If you might land a client here and there, you might even land a big one. Sometimes maybe you land a $15,000 deal, a big one, but that can literally set you back 3 months delivering that project. And you constantly have to hunt for new leads to keep your business stable, right? And in the end, the only way you're going to scale this business model is by hiring more engineers. So many of the AI automation agencies I talk to every day, and I've been there too, they get stuck in the phase which I call the one-off project hell, where you're constantly chasing new leads, trying to find new projects, and trying to deliver on the existing clients you have, which often drag out a lot longer than you think. Now, I've been seeing many videos recently, including from fellow creators on YouTube, saying the AI automation agency model is a scam, or it's all a lie, uh, or don't sell AI automation, sell this, etc. Don't sell AI agents. Now, I want to be very clear here. This model, this business model, it's not a silver bullet, right? We're all excited about AI, but it's still a business, right? And getting any business off the ground, getting any business stable and scaling is hard, right? And it takes time, right? But it doesn't mean it's not a viable business, right? I've countless of examples around me, and us including, that have been able to stabilize and scale this business model to interesting numbers. So this doesn't mean it's not a viable business. I think many people who are saying this and experiencing this are just stuck in what I call the one-off project hell. But there's definitely a way out of this, right? Which I'm going to show you exactly how to get out of later in this presentation. Now, the second business model many people jump into when learning this is, of course, an AI product business or an AI SaaS. Now, some people might jump into this intuitively because they are not that interested in running a service business. They want to build products, more scalable business models. Or some people jump into this because they've tried an AI automation agency and might be stuck in that one-off project hell and are like, maybe a service business is not really mine, or maybe this is not a viable business model. They might switch into trying to build an AI product or an AI SaaS. Now, the big upsides of course, of starting this right now is that it's with these coding platforms like Cursor, Lovable, you have Bolt, etc. It's easier than ever to build products now. We don't need to have technical expertise anymore to build AI products, right? And that's especially where the non-technical people get really excited, because for the first time, they can actually build products without needing developers, right? So it's easier than ever to do this. And of course, potentially this business model, you can run a much leaner. You're not running a service business, so you're not exchanging work and time for value to a business. You're just building a product once and potentially can resell it to multiple businesses, and therefore can be a much higher margin business and much more scalable. Now, that being said, it is very, very difficult to get a successful product or SaaS business off the ground. I can tell you, I've run a SaaS business for almost 5 years before getting into AI, which eventually went bankrupt. And I can tell you, it takes a lot of hard work and time to build valuable products that people are willing to pay for. The biggest mistake I see people making is they have this amazing idea in their head. They are building out this amazing idea or product for 6 months, and they expect people to magically flock to their product and to love their product just the way they had it in their head. This is the recipe for disaster with products and SaaS, because ideas in general are worthless. Most startups, successful startups, end up with completely different ideas than they originally started out with. The real key to success in building successful products and SaaS is a combination of distribution. You need to have scalable acquisition channels to reach your target audience. You need to work and build the product from customer feedback instead of from just your idea. Your customers build your product, not you. And thirdly, you need relentless execution for many years to build really valuable products, right? And all of this just takes a lot of time. And to bridge that time between your idea and getting customers and getting the feedback to build the product, you need either cash flow, cash in the bank, or investments, right? And that's why many startups need investment to bridge that gap. And unfortunately, 95% of startups die in the valley of death, a famous concept of Mark Andreessen, a famous investor and entrepreneur himself. Most startups just never make it out of that valley of death until they find a valuable product that people are willing to pay for, or also called product market fit. And that just really takes time. Now, in this video, I want to show you an alternative approach and a step-by-step roadmap on how to get maybe eventually to a very scalable AI SaaS or product model without having the need to raise money or to invest a lot of your own money. And I'll show you the exact step-by-step stages of how to get to a scalable business model like an AI SaaS. And now that we have these coding agents, it is of course a little bit of a double-edged sword. Yes, you can build products a lot faster, but also the competition is going to be much, much higher. And the same principles will still apply in the AI era. The ones who are going to win have a combination of distribution. They can really reach their target audience. They build based on customer feedback, and they have relentless execution. But now the competition is going to be much, much higher. So I want to show you an alternative approach to get maybe eventually to a very scalable AI SaaS, but without having the need to do huge fundraising, to invest your own money, and while actually building a profitable and scalable business in the meantime. And I think this can be a really interesting opportunity and a much safer route to eventually build a successful AI SaaS. So what is that roadmap to scaling an AI product business? First of all, it's really important to understand that audience first approach, right? Most people get it the wrong way around, right? Again, like I said before, most people had this amazing idea in their head. They spent 6 months in stealth mode trying to build this perfect product. And of course, we can do that a bit quicker now with these coding agents. And then either expect users to automatically flock to their amazing product, or then go out to try and market the product, which many people underestimate how difficult it actually is to market products. While in reality, good products are built out of really understanding users, solving users' problems, and user feedback, right? And therefore, it's a much better strategy to first go to your target audience, right? Many successful SaaS have done this too by, for example, just having a landing page with a waiting list, run some ads or some cold emails, trying to get some initial leads, learn from those initial targets, try to solve their problems in a manual way, and then from there build out a product, right? That can be a much better way. And a common saying is first time founders go product first, second time founders go audience first. And this is exactly what I did. I can tell you from my experience, when I started my first SaaS, I fell exactly in this trap. I tried to build this perfect product for 6 months. Then I went out to the market and tried to market this, which took me probably another 6 months to actually get some users onboarded. And then I figured out my idea was not that amazing as I thought. And then I spent another year actually building, based on customer feedback, what was actually a valuable product. And when I jumped into AI, I really went the audience first approach. I knew I wanted to build a product or a business around AI, but I didn't know exactly what. So first went audience first. In my case, I did YouTube. I'm not saying it's the only way, right? It's not the only channel, but I first did YouTube. And after getting lots of feedback and talking to many people who watch my channel, I figured out I can build multiple businesses here that will help people. But it really came from that audience first or marketing first approach, right? And now I ended up with 3 businesses, which of course is a learning platform, my community. I have an AI SEO product, which very much evolved out of user feedback too. And thirdly, I still have my custom AI automation agency where we deliver services to businesses, because again, there is a need for this. So what do you really need to build a successful AI product or AI SaaS? Is you need to have a scalable acquisition channel. Why? Because you need users to pay you, and you need users to give you feedback to build the product, right? Second, you need cash flow or cash in the bank or an investment to bridge the gap, right? Because it takes time to build acquisition channels. It builds time to build valuable products. So you need cash. And lastly, you need product market fit for a successful AI SaaS, right? And if you don't know product market fit means your product solves a problem for a specific target audience, and that target audience is actively using it, paying for it, and paying the amount for it that you need to make this business profitable, and also are actively recommending it, right? And the thing with these 3 points is most people highly underestimate how difficult it is to build a scalable acquisition channel. Most people completely ignore the fact that they need cash flow or cash in the bank to actually bridge that time between building a valuable product. And most people are highly overconfident that they have product market fit, while it's actually one of the hardest to reach. So, and you really want to be brutally honest with yourself here. How many of these 3 do you really have? You might have some cash flow because you're still in your job and you're doing this sort of as a side project, but do you really have a scalable acquisition channel, or are you close to product market fit? Because if you're not, jumping into an AI product or an AI SaaS right away is quite risky. So I want to give you an alternative approach where you make money while building the SaaS, right? And as most people think, I can either run an AI automation agency, a service business, or I can jump into an AI SaaS. There's actually a model where you transition from one into the other. And in this model, you actually find ideas for potential products. You get paid while building them. You have time to build up your acquisition channel, and you make sure that when you eventually transition into an AI SaaS, you actually have product market fit, right? And because the amazing opportunity we have as an AI automation agency, which very few people are in or very few businesses are in, is businesses will come to us with their biggest problems and pay us to develop systems for them that solve those problems. So as you're working with clients in your custom AI automation agency, you can identify systems you've built for them that really solve big pain points and deliver outcomes to that business. And once you've identified a system like that that brings high ROI to a business, you can safely assume that probably this system will generate outcomes and solve pain points for businesses in that same niche. So the next phase in this transition is to sell these pre-built AI systems where you really double down on that system you have identified solves a pain point. And I'm not saying this has to be perfectly productized yet. You can still customize it for each business a bit. But in this phase, you're really doubling down on that specific system for that specific niche. So you're learning how to solve the problem for multiple businesses in that niche. So you're slowly but surely developing the system to become better and better. You become one of the top experts in that specific niche, building this specific system. You can also then double down on the marketing and the acquisition channel towards that specific audience with this specific offer. So you build that scalable acquisition channel. And once you've done that with a few companies, you can safely assume you have product market fit if it delivered outcomes to all of these different businesses. So when you make the transition to an AI SaaS, you've already had the cash flow, you've built up a scalable acquisition channel, and you can safely assume you have product market fit. So I think we're in an amazing position to actually start out as an AI automation agency. And this is really the approach I've taken to building and scaling my AI SEO system. So how does this system help you with scaling? Now, the point, by the way, of this graph is not to say that you cannot scale an AI automation agency. You definitely can, and we have scaled our AI automation agency too. And I'm going to get to that later in this video. The way I do it is I basically have one team focused on scaling the AI automation agency where we deliver custom projects, and one team which is focused on productization. Now, the point of this graph is if you want to go that more productized route and you potentially want to build more of that product type business, more scalable business, then this can be a really interesting route where you can really hit that next level of scale. Now, take these numbers with a grain of salt, right? This is just a ballpark, but the point of this is if you're running a custom AI agency, and let's say your team stays the same size, you are going to hit a ceiling, right? You are going to have a limit of the amount of clients you can work with. So there's going to be a ceiling to your MRR. Now, how do these pre-built AI systems make you hit that next level of scale? It's because first of all, if you're really focusing on one specific system for one specific niche, even though you might still be customizing the solution for each customer, you'll spend a lot less time customizing the system for each new business because you already know you've already pre-built some things, you already have some more expertise in the system. So you'll spend less time building out this new solution uh, versus if you're building a completely new solution that you've never done before for a client, right? So let's say you only spend 30% of the time you would spend a completely new project on, then you can of course also uh, service 3 times more clients by focusing on one specific solution for one specific niche. Second of all, it's a lot easier to market and convert clients because now that you have one specific system for one specific niche, you can really hyper target that specific audience with this specific offer, which makes it a lot easier to market your services or your product. And second, because you've already delivered this system to clients, you all can show proof to these clients that this system actually delivers outcomes. You can show proof that you can actually do this, and therefore you can easier convert these clients too. And lastly, you can also still charge the same or even more for these pre-built AI systems because you know it delivers results and you have proof that this system works, right? So this really can make you hit that next level of scale. And this is not going to happen overnight, right? These transitions between phases can literally take months or even years. But the point is, it can be a much safer way to eventually get to an AI SaaS. And we are, for example, around here, right? We are now hitting consistently over 50K MR with our AI SEO system. But we're still not transitioning into an AI SaaS. And we are not even sure if we're ever going to transition into an AI SaaS because we're very profitable right now. We are learning a lot about what to build, right? We're still improving the product with each client we work with. And we are not transitioning into a SaaS yet because, first of all, we're still building our scalable acquisition channel. because we know that if we transition into an AI SaaS, we cannot charge the same prices as we are charging now. So we will need more clients. So we're still building up our acquisition channels. And second, we're still learning how to improve our product and to build it better. But the point is, when we transitioning into a SaaS, we know that we have product market fit. This system really solves a problem for our customer or for our target audience. And second, we have built up our scalable acquisition channels to jump into an AI SaaS and being profitable from the get-go. So what are the stages in this process, and what should you focus on today if you want to go this productized route? Now, I put it here in 5 different stages. And when you look at this, you want to really think about where are you at right now. Now, all the way on the left, we have the AI agency or the custom AI agency. Here you might start when you're just starting off, you're learning about automation, and you might not have a lot of specific domain expertise yet. You don't know a specific industry or specific department very well, because if you do, I recommend jumping into stage 2 right away. But let's say you don't have that. You can start, delivering basically automation services to a pretty broad sort of audience. And the main goal when you're in this stage is, first of all, learning, right? Of course, it will be good if you can build up some cash flow, but it's really about learning, right? And also learning about what to potentially niche down into, right? And the way you can approach this is by doing some warm outreach in your network. What has worked very well for people in my community, for example, is to put some LinkedIn posts out with things you've learned or things you're building or automating, or maybe do some Upwork outreach and do some custom projects for people on Upwork, and really try to get those first clients and those first learnings in. Now, in that process, you might identify that you've been able to deliver some good automation solutions to an e-commerce business, and you've built up some expertise and you understand a lot better now how e-commerce businesses work. So you're building a little bit of that domain expertise, which is very necessary in general to build valuable systems for companies, right? It's not just generally having the technical expertise of building these automation systems. A lot of times we have to inject some domain expertise in that specific solution we're building to really deliver value to a company, right? So this next stage, which is stage 2, which is a niche AI agency, which I highly recommend people jump into who have some professional background, who have some knowledge in a specific industry, have worked in a specific industry or a specific department. Let's say you've worked in marketing a lot. I would focus right away on more marketing based automation solutions. Now, in this niched project, you can really have 2 ways to niche down. The first one is by department: marketing, sales, customer service, HR. Or the second is by industry, right? E-commerce, real estate, etc. And of course, you can combine these two if you want to niche down even further. For example, marketing automation solutions for e-commerce. Now, I, for example, have a background in sales and marketing. So when I started my AI agency and I was still alone, I focused on that specific niche. So I offered sales and marketing automation services to quite a wide variety of businesses. So I did some inbound sales automations, some outbound sales automations, and I also delivered an AI SEO system to a marketing agency. Now, the point when you want to make this transition to a more pre-built AI system, the key to do here is to, first of all, only accept potentially resellable projects. And what do I mean with this? Once you start working with these clients, you'll notice different projects or requirements coming in. And the key here is to only take on projects that you can potentially resell to other businesses and that would deliver outcomes to these other businesses, because there are many internal workflows or process-oriented workflows that companies come to you with, which are very unique to each business. Now, generally, if you want to make this transition, you don't want to take on those projects because they're going to eat a lot of your time up. And generally, they're so unique to each business that it's going to be really hard to replicate, in a sense, for another business while delivering outcomes, right? So in general, internal process automation are hard to resell or to productize eventually, right? So in general, the ones that are generally revenue generating systems, right? Lead generation systems, content systems, SEO systems, hiring systems are usually more replicable for other companies, and you can sort of assume that it would have value for other businesses in that same niche too. So that's the first thing you want to do. You want to really focus and only take on those projects. Second, you want to identify the systems you've delivered that really brought high ROI to a client. So in my experience, when I was doing this, I delivered this AI SEO system. It was a highly customized one according to their specific SEO process, but it delivered really high ROI for this marketing agency. And therefore, it got me thinking, this I really have to double down a bit more. And that's what you can do if you've identified that you've, built a system that really brought a lot of ROI to a company, to double down on that. And what I did is I started separately marketing my SEO solutions or my services, right? And really trying to target a bit more of the marketing agencies and the SEO agencies, right? And when I started doing that, I started landing a few more clients where I started automating SEO systems or SEO processes. And this was still highly customized. It was not a product yet I've built. I just offered these SEO automations to the specific target audience, right? And because I was doing that, I was learning a lot about SEO. I was learning a lot about what the best way to do SEO was. And also because I was learning every company still had different ways and processes of doing SEO. But because I was working with multiple marketing agencies and SEO agencies, I slowly learned also which type of system brought the best results, etc. And that's the point. And that's the huge opportunity we have in this AI wave is if you hyper focus on one system for one niche, because AI is so new, if you've worked probably with 2 or 3 clients delivering these specific systems, you're probably already in the top 2% experts in this specific field, designing these specific AI systems for that niche. So you really can become an expert quite quickly. So I was working with a few clients. I think I worked with 4 or 5 different clients trying to automate different processes in their SEO, and I learned a lot, right? So the next phase in stage 4 is to really productize the solution, right? Because in stage 3, I was still highly customizing. In stage 4, you're really trying to build a pre-built self-serve system that the customer can use without customization, right? This is really the jump from stage 3 to stage 4, and that can take quite a while, right? So if you want to make this jump from stage 3 to stage 4, you really, first of all, have to learn what to build, what the perfect processes are, in my case, in SEO, right? Through customer feedback while learning with multiple companies. You make sure you've delivered outcomes to multiple businesses to make sure that this system really does provide value. And then you productize the AI system, right? Meaning you make it into a self-serve platform, right? Now, this doesn't mean it's a one size fits all or a plug and play. It just means that you've built in the personalization, which is still necessary, let's say in an SEO system, into the system instead of you customizing it each time. And lastly, if you want to make this transition, of course, you want to also really double down on building that scalable acquisition channel that targets that specific audience with your specific offer, right? Because you are sort of taking a risk here. And of course, you can also, when you transition, for example, from stage 2 to 3, you don't have to go all in right away, right? You can still offer general services, trying to market one specific system. But once you go here, you're really going to invest a lot of time and you really want to build that scalable acquisition channel because you're double down on one specific offer or solution. Now, this is what I call the out of the box sort of model, which we are using right now, where it's basically what we sell is the pre-built N8N system with a front end on Airtable and a database in Airtable, and we sell that as a one-off price with a support fee to the customer, and we don't need to customize this, right? They can either set it up themselves or we can set it up in less than a day for them because the system is already pre-built. If you want to learn more about how we set up these productized out-of-the-box systems, in my last video, I show a step-by-step tutorial on how we build the infrastructure for these productized AI systems. But the key point there and the huge advantage we have is we can still do this with no code, right? Because the advantage of keeping it in no code is we stay very flexible, right? Because even now, although we've sold it to more than 50 businesses, we're still adapting, we're improving, we're learning, and we're constantly changing and improving the solution. And because we've built it in no code, we can do that really fast, right? If would have it in code, of course, we can do it a lot faster in code now too with coding agents, etc. But because we have it in no code, we can do it really fast. We can add new features really fast. So that's the huge advantage. And we're already very profitable here. And once you're there and you really start to consistently sell it and it consistently delivers results to your clients you sell it to, then you can eventually transition into an AI SaaS. But it's important to keep in mind that you really have to have your acquisition nailed because most likely here you can charge quite a big upfront fee to set the system up. For SaaS in general, your ticket's going to be a bit lower, so you need to have more customer acquisition. You really have to have a scalable acquisition channel. You really have to be 100% sure you have product market fit. And even though we know that our system delivers outcomes for most of our clients, we still know at the moment we can't do things improve the experience, improve the outcomes. So that's why we're very happy to stay here at the moment. And then eventually you can convert it really to a SaaS, which is of course cloud hosted and a complete self-serve, right? There's zero customization involved anymore. And the huge advantage after a while, of course, to transitioning to a SaaS is you have access to the data. That's one thing we're missing, of course, right now. We don't have the data because every company runs it on their own and they then self-hosted version. So we don't have that data, which we can use, of course, to improve the product even further. And of course, when you transition into a SaaS, you're really going to professionalize things. You probably want to focus a bit on hiring. Now, the point of all of these stages is you don't have to go left to right, of course, or completely step by step, right? You might start here in stage 2, and you might even start in stage 3, right? Many of the creators are now offering these templates or pre-built sort of solutions, including me, right? What you do have to take into account with these templates that people give away is they're not stage 4 yet, right? They're not completely self-serve, battle tested with multiple clients, perfect solutions, right? If I take my examples, my meta ad agency or some of the last builds I've shown, these were just sort of one-off projects we've done for one client, but that doesn't mean it works perfectly for all the clients in the niche. So if you take one of these systems or these pre-built templates, keep in mind that you'll still need to customize this heavily most of the time for each new client that you sell this to, right? But it can be a great way to start to slowly but surely build out an out-of-the-box solution. And this can take time, right? This can take weeks, months. You don't want to rush into this because you're also risking a little bit. If you're really doubling down on one system for one niche, you're of course going to also put all your effort into that system. So you can also decide to keep your options open a bit more, work a bit more with custom projects, discover some potential solutions. Then you can even try to market a few systems and see which ones work best. Another example of someone who's taken this approach is Jonas, a friend of mine, also a member of my community, who started out, I think, 2 years ago with a custom AI agency where he did some custom projects. He built some voice agent solutions for some companies and saw high ROI in those solutions for those businesses. So he niched down into only doing voice solutions for businesses. Then he built some solutions for hotels and for some other type businesses. Then he noticed, especially for hotels, he brought a lot of ROI in his system. So he niched down even further and really doubled down on voice agent solutions for hotels. Then he worked with a few of these companies and learned a lot about how to build good solutions, voice agent solutions for hotels, and became one of the top experts, if not the expert in this specific niche because it's so new. And eventually, after working with multiple clients, he now is transitioning into complete self-serve SaaS, where instead of him doing the personalization, the customer sets up the entire automation solution by themselves on his SaaS, right? And he's now been offered some funding. I don't think he's even taken it because, of course, he's been generating cash flow while building the product. Now, how do you sell these AI systems? Now, you can really have two approaches. You can have our approach, which of course is selling the system itself, right? And you can do that with a one-off price, and maybe you can charge a support fee if they need ongoing help. But you can really sell this at a high ticket in general. Or the second option, which many people are overlooking, is you can sell the outcome, especially again, if you're focusing on these revenue generating systems, lead generation system, content system that directly deliver outcomes, which is leads booked into the calendar, for example, to companies. They are very happy to pay for that. They don't even have to know you're using AI in a sense, because you're basically can position yourself as more of a traditional agency, a lead generation agency, for example, and then you can charge recurring fees, commissions on every lead booked in their calendar, or even get rev shares. Another example of this is Andrew, also a member of my community and a friend of mine, who does lead generation, who built a lead generation system for a reputation company that brought such good results, and he's automated the system so much that he can now serve multiple clients delivering the same type of system, and he can really scale this up to interesting levels because he charges a recurring fee, he gets a rev share, and the system works really well for each customer converted and a commission for each lead booked into the calendar. So even if you just stick to this model, you can make it a really interesting and scalable business model. Now, what do you need if you want to sell this sort of out of the box type solution, which we are doing with SEO? First of all, it's really important that your system really consistently delivers outcomes for multiple of these businesses, right? And it's important here, the outcome has to be measurable and high impact for the company. And in general, the best type of systems for this are systems that generate revenue, like lead generation, content systems, right? Because most companies, the biggest pain point is lead generation. They can't scale because they don't have enough leads. So revenue generating systems are usually the biggest one. Make sure that it automates an end-to-end workflow. That's generally the more of an end-to-end workflow it automates, the higher the value is for the company. This doesn't mean it has to be a completely automated process. We actually noticed that adding a lot of human in the loop through that customer interface is really important, and most customers actually want that. But it is important to automate an end-to-end workflow, right? To cover the entire process. And second, you have to slowly but surely transform it into a self-serve product, right? While still maintaining the outcome and delivering the outcome to the customer, which can be hard and can take time. When this self-serve doesn't mean it's a one-size-fits-all. It means the personalization or the customization is done by the user inside of the system instead of you customizing it in the N8N workflow. Now, the way we build these AI systems is by having a database in Airtable, a front end with Airtable interfaces. That's why we like Airtable, because we can have those two combined. Now, this is a big mistake I see many people making when delivering automation systems or trying to build AI systems is they use Google Sheets or whatever. This is not a great experience or user UI or user experience for the user. If you can build a simple front end in something like Lovable or Airtable interfaces, the perceived value of your AI system or your automation goes up a lot because the customer feels like they're getting a little bit of a product, right? And then in the back end, we use N8N to automate the processes. Now, again, if you want to learn more about how we design the infrastructure for these AI systems, I did a full step-by-step tutorial in my last video. I'll make sure to link it up here or in the description below too. So just a quick recap. If you want to build and scale an AI product business, 3 things to really take away from this is first, really important, focus from day one almost on building a scalable marketing channel, right? You probably want to focus at least 50% of your time on really getting good at marketing and building acquisition. Because whatever stage you're in, this is really going to make the difference between you being able to scale or not, right? And one thing I learned from Y Combinator a few years ago is most people are trying 8 different channels at the same time. Really try to focus on 1, maybe 2 channels and become an expert at it, right? Most unicorns, as they say in Y Combinator, most unicorns, $1 billion companies, have grown to become that large by becoming really good and nailing 1 acquisition channel, not 5 at the same time. Of course, eventually you can start building out multiple channels, but most have grown to become a unicorn by becoming really good at 1 and becoming an expert at 1 channel, right? So focus on that from day 1. Second, you want to focus on AI systems that deliver measurable outcomes. Again, revenue generating systems are generally the best. Second, maybe are hiring systems, because the 2 factors that prevent companies from scaling is more leads or more people, right? So if you can provide companies with revenue generating systems or hiring systems, you generally can bring the highest ROI to businesses. And lastly, you really want to build and productize based on feedback, not just on your idea. Don't build out the perfect product you have in your head right away. Make users build it out of feedback, right? And therefore that MVP, minimum viable product approach, is really important. And the huge opportunity and the great thing we have right now with no code is we can now build these MVPs, minimum viable products, really fast in no code. And as long as we stay in no code, we can iterate, improve the solution, add new features really quick based on that customer feedback. Of course, if you have some coding background and you're using tools like Cursor, you can also do it there. And it's a lot faster now in those with code too, to make iterations and improve products. But in general, if you don't have that background, stay in no code until you really make that transition into SaaS. I'll do a video on how to build scalable marketing channels for AI systems very soon. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. Now, before jumping into how to scale an AI service agency or an AI automation agency, I want to quickly go over another huge opportunity that I think many people are overlooking, which is actually scaling a non-AI service business now that we have AI. If you're an existing agency owner, like a marketing agency owner, a lead gen agency owner, or even another type of service agency, like maybe a web design agency, but even if you're just learning AI and starting out and don't have experience with this can be a really interesting business model to hit a very interesting level of scale, because this business model can now be completely transformed now that we have AI. Both if you want to scale as a service business, but also if you want to potentially go into a more productized business model, because I predict that in the long run, we will see more and more of a productization of this service industry. And some of the most successful people running AI businesses right now are actually following this approach. So there's really two routes to get to this model, I think. And first of all, the amazing position you're in, if you are an existing agency owner or a consultant, right, is that you already generally have some cash flow. You already know how to deliver outcomes to a specific niche or a business, and you have the processes in place generally to deliver on these outcomes. And besides that, you usually already have built up some acquisition channels to reach your target audience. Now, what you can do slowly but surely, if you're learning automation, is start automating more and more of the processes you already use in a day-to-day to deliver outcomes or results to your clients. Because if you think about it, the biggest bottleneck for most agency type businesses is delivery. And scaling any types of these service businesses generally just means you have to hire more people. And that's really generally the bottleneck to scaling this business model. But now, if you're learning AI, you can start automating more and more of your process delivery. Even if you can automate 30% of your processes, you're already able to serve many more clients and hit a level of scale that traditional agencies could never scale to. And the upside of following this path is, first of all, that you have time, right? Because you're already generating cash flow by providing services to these companies. Also, you are the one using your automation systems to deliver outcomes to clients, meaning you don't have to get a perfect system from the get-go. You can slowly but surely try and automate more and more of your own processes, of your own work to deliver these outcomes to clients. And besides just automating, you can also enhance now with AI the outcomes you can deliver to clients, right? Because AI doesn't just automate, it can really enhance the service delivery we're giving to clients. And there are companies right now that are getting amazing results with this approach. And a great example is called IQ. It's just a lead generation agencies. These guys had a background in lead generation. Now they've learned AI and heavily automate and systemize and enhance the process or the service of generating leads for their clients. And they can really scale to levels that traditional lead gen agencies could never scale to, with margins that are way higher than traditional agency type businesses. And what you can eventually do, if you've really systemized and automated a process that delivers outcomes to clients, you can eventually productize it and make it into a self-serve product, so you can really hit that next level of scale. But even if you're just staying here, you can already make this a really, really interesting business model. Another approach to get to this business model, if you're not starting out as a traditional agency owner or a consultant, is to actually take that AI automation agency approach. If you've identified a system that delivers outcomes to clients and you double down on that, you can then make that transition to more of a traditional and position yourself more as a traditional agency. For example, I've seriously considered, when I was building my SEO system, to actually position myself much more as an SEO agency, and then by using my own SEO system to deliver more traditional SEO services, I could first of all have a very interesting value proposition for my clients. I could probably charge a lot less than traditional SEO agencies can. I can serve probably 20 or 30 times more clients than traditional SEO agencies can. And therefore, I can really scale this business model to really interesting levels. Now, I decided I wanted to go more of the productized route to eventually build something even more scalable, because of course this does mean you still need more client relationships, client management, etc. I decided here, but this can really be an option too. And in this process, you also be learning a lot if you eventually maybe want to transition into a product, right? So there's really two ways to monetize these AI systems for one specific niche. Another example of someone who followed this path is Josh, also a member of my community, who ran a paid marketing agency. So he did meta ads for small business owners in Europe. And slowly but surely, when he was learning AI, he started automating more and more of his service delivery, ad generation, ad copy generation, etc. So first of all, he could serve many more clients. He could lower his price for new clients, so he could serve a bigger market, and he could really hit that next level of scale. And then what he did is he made it into a complete self-serve product, first in no code and eventually transitioned into a SaaS. So small business owners without the expertise in paid ads could now set up their ads and their ad copy, etc., by themselves through his SaaS. And the interesting thing when he did this is because when it became a self-serve product, the price point lowered so much because there was not that much human involvement anymore, that he could now also serve a new niche that was traditionally underserved. So very small, tiny business owners traditionally service agencies were too expensive for them, so they couldn't do paid ads. But there was still a market for these guys. They still have an advantage of doing paid ads to get more customers. And now we could really serve that audience because the price point was a lot lower. So this is what I'll see happening a lot too. Because many service providers and service agencies will become productized solutions, now these underserved niches where traditional agencies were too expensive for them can now be served with these self-serve SaaS type business models. So I think this can be really interesting. Another example of this is Tal, who did a masterclass on cold email, also in my community. Tal ran a cold email marketing agency or lead generation agency for M&A companies. He was traditionally really good at this and got great results for his clients because even before AI, he always personalized each email to each client and he got really good results by this. And what he did is slowly but surely automated more and more of his service, also the personalization and many other processes in his business. And this allowed him to scale and be able to handle many more clients with the same size of team. And therefore his lead generation agency really hit that next level of scale. And I think many marketing agencies or consultants, etc., many think, maybe should I start to think about starting an AI automation agency? The world is evolving, but I'd really recommend to think about this model because you already have that domain expertise. And if you can systemize and automate your processes that you already know can deliver outcomes to clients, it can really be a quicker and faster way to build a scalable business. And the big upside of this model is you'll have access to lots of data, right? You know exactly what kind of processes, what kind of systems drive outcomes for businesses, which is going to be vital when you transform it into a SaaS, because you can use that data when creating a SaaS to make sure that the self-serve platform actually drives results for customers, which can be a bit more challenging if you're doing this or this model, because you might not always have access to all the data on what actually drives results for companies. Now, again, take these numbers with a grain of salt, right? This is just a ballpark just to give you an idea. Probably with this model, you can scale even past the 100K MLR, but it's just to give you an idea. And lastly, what's the roadmap to scaling an AI automation agency or an AI service business? Now, before jumping into the details, there's three main takeaways you want to take out of this. If you want to scale an AI service business or an AI automation agency, it's these three things, right? First of all, you have to go beyond implementation only, right? The market, this is completely new to most businesses, right? Most businesses need much more than just technical people executing on projects for them. They need people that educate them on how to adopt and adapt in the new era of AI, right? So that needs a combination of consulting, training, education. That's what businesses will need. And this is the easiest way for you to grow and scale your AI automation agency, to go beyond just presenting yourself as a builder, as a technical person who can implement projects for them. The second thing is, and I'm hammering this on in each of the business model, is you do need consistent lead flow. It's really important in any of these businesses. The only way you're going to scale it is by having that consistent lead flow. And although in the AI automation agency, you don't need as much of a scalable acquisition channel as, let's say, in a productized or an AI SaaS, because generally clients will pay you more as a service provider. You'll need to work with less clients. You do need consistent lead flow because you have to say no a lot. You really have to work with the right type of clients and the right clients for you. And that means you do need consistent lead flow. You have to qualify them hard. And therefore, you need an acquisition channel that is consistent in order for your business to scale. And lastly, the only way a service business you're ever going to scale that is by hiring more people and managing more people. And therefore, you need processes in place that you can give to these new people in your business to execute and deliver the services to your clients. So what does the roadmap look like to scaling an AI automation agency or an AI service business? Now, you might start off, I've touched upon this a little bit before, you might start off as a custom AI agency where you deliver custom projects or implementations to a wide variety of businesses, which can be a great place to start if you might not have that much domain expertise in a specific department or industry, and you're just relying on your technical expertise, you knowing how to build on platforms like N8N, Make.com, etc., which can be a great place to start. If you already have some domain expertise in a specific industry or department, again, I recommend to go more into a niche AI agency right away, because again, it is easier to market if you talk to a specific audience. You do need some domain expertise generally to provide value in these automation systems. Now, Generally, you can start off here with some one-off project pricing, right? Maybe sometimes even hourly. This is usually the easiest way to get started, right? You can do some warm outreach in your network. What's working great for people in my community, for example, is just sharing their learnings or the systems they've been building on LinkedIn. You might see that some businesses in your network might reach out to you, or people in your network might reach out to you, because many people know they have to do something with AI. Many businesses have FOMO. They need to do something with AI. Now they see someone in their network that can do something with AI, and they might contact you because they have some ideas in mind. Can be a great way to start. You can also start with platforms like Upwork or Fiverr, and try to get some custom projects in through those platforms. And in this phase, you're really focusing on implementations, and generally for more SMBs, because it's easier to close when you're just starting off. And the goal in this phase is really about learning, right? First of all, you're learning the technical skills, but second of all, you're also, if you might not have that much experience in a specific domain, you're really building up some domain expertise while you're building out solutions for clients, right? Because when you're building these projects, you really get an idea of how this industry works, how this specific company works. So you're really building up the domain expertise too. And therefore, you can slowly but surely also try to niche down. And building up domain expertise is really, really key, right? Because again, you can niche down eventually, which makes it a lot easier to service your market your services. And second, in my experience, it's so much easier to close a client if you really understand their problem. If you can talk to them on the same level and you have that business acumen and you can really level with them when you're talking in these sales calls, the trust in you goes up exponentially, and the technical ability will almost be automatically assumed if you really have the domain expertise and can talk on the same level with your client. The conversions become a lot easier too when you're building up domain expertise and you're really niching down. Now, this phase is not easy, right? This phase really is brutal, right? And this is where many people end up what I call the one-off project hell, right? And this is probably the most difficult phase in your stage, but don't get it wrong, right? This doesn't mean this is not a viable business, or that there's no need in the market. There's a huge need in the market for these service providers, and it's only going to grow exponentially in the upcoming years, right? So don't take the wrong conclusion here. It is brutal in these first stages, but see it as a phase in the process, a stage in the process, and probably the most difficult phase. To get out of this first stage, the key here is to switch in a model which I call a fractional AI officer. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be alone. You can also already have a small team or maybe a partner. It's just a name for me to describe what you're doing in this stage. And the key to this stage is to really start only pitching yourself as an AI partner, not just an AI builder or an implementer, right? And you do that to get your clients onto retainers, right? Retainers are key to hitting that next level because it gives your business stability, right? Recurring, predictable revenue. So it gives your business stability and really allows you to scale to that next level. Now, I've been pointing this out a few times in my other videos too. The key here really is to position yourself as a partner instead of just a builder, right? And the key here is to provide and offer not just implementations, but a mix between consulting, implementations, and maybe even training. Again, the market, and this is actually what most companies need, right? They don't just need technical people to execute on projects. They need people that consult them on what to start with, that help educate their employees on how to better use AI. The transformation into the AI era is much more than just providing some implementation. Now, and when I talk about consulting, I'm not talking about McKinsey type consulting, right? Don't get it wrong. Like, even if you're doing one-off projects and just focusing on implementations, you're already providing consulting, because many times when we're automating processes and when you're starting out, you'll see that most businesses are actually very messy. And before we start automating processes in their business, we already have to re-establish processes, improve processes in the first place before actually automating this. So a lot of times you're already providing consulting, right? You cannot generally just go in and automate a process without a lot of back and forth with the client, right? So what I mean with consulting here is just adding a once a week meeting into the offer you give to the client, right? Maybe you can add in one training session for their entire team once a month, right? Where you teach them how to use ChatGPT better, prompting, maybe how to integrate MCPs, just surface level things that could help employees in their business use AI in a better way to become more productive. And because you're going to work with retainers and hopefully higher ticket retainers, you really want to switch your target audience, your target market to bigger sized companies. That could still be SMBs or mid-sized businesses, but you do have to make sure that the businesses you're targeting actually have the money in order to pay you this retainer, right? Simple math can tell you that if a business only does $20,000 in revenue and you're trying to charge a $5,000 retainer, they're not going to spend 25% of their budget on this, right? So think about it that way, right? If you're maybe getting them on a 2,000 retainer, maybe they need probably a $30,000 MRR, but you have to target the type of businesses that can actually afford this. Now, what you'll see happen once you start pitching this partnership model and retainers is you do get a lot of pushback, right? And the pushback also comes because companies don't have experience working with these service providers yet. So they're a little bit hesitant. They don't know what to expect. The trust is not there. So what you can do and what worked very well when I transitioned into this model is to offer a one-off project or a very small part of their initial idea of a project as a one-off project to build that trust. And then, but the key in this point is that you pitch that partnership model from the start, right? You say, yes, sure, I can deliver this smaller project or this initial proof of concept at a fixed price, but just making very clear to the business, this is going to be a retainer model. This is going to be a long-term relationship. And really the way to pitch that is to tell them, look, one-off projects are not going to make a huge difference in your business. AI is going to transform businesses and the world and the markets. The only way you're going to really make an impact in your business is by making AI and adoption of AI a long-term priority in your business, right? And making AI a priority company-wide, right? And therefore, I only work with companies that make that long-term strategic bet. Now, some businesses might not be looking for this, right? They're shopping around, looking for 5 or 6 different developers, trying to get the cheapest way to build out as one specific project or solution. And the key here is not to work with those clients, right? You have to work with the right clients. And this is really key in this model, right? Not every business will want to adopt this retainer model, but it really, in my experience, is key to work with the right clients, right? And I can tell you from my experience, when we first started doing this and I started first doing this, I probably said no to 8 out of 10 companies because they are not aligned with that sort of long-term approach. So saying no is a huge part of making this transition. And the only way you can say no while still building revenue is by having consistent lead flow, right? The acquisition channel here becomes really key. Because you have to disqualify leads quite hard, you really need to start getting a consistent lead flow. Now, the way to reach this is by building a personal brand on one of the social medias. You can get good at cold email. You can get good at paid ads. You can run partnerships, which some people in my community run successfully. But really, that consistent lead flow is key. And again, I'm going to do a full video on how to build these acquisition channels. So it might take some time before you can really transition. And this is why so many people are stuck, because this takes time, right? Getting a consistent lead flow going, really targeting businesses with higher revenue, higher MRR, and getting those consistently in and pitching those retainer models. But you really do need to get there to build a more scalable and steady, stable AI automation agency or AI service business. Now, eventually, once you have consistent revenue from this model, you can switch into the next stage, which I call the AI partner agency. And this is really where you hit the next level if you want to scale. And that's where you, again, work with retainer only. But in this case, you're going to go only 10K plus, right? 6 figures plus, or some AI agencies also, they just work with really, really big projects, right? 50K plus or 100K plus. You can do one-off projects in this case, but they have to be very large. Generally, in this model, you are going to offer, again, a combination of consulting, training, implementations, and maybe even audits. Because especially bigger companies, which you're going to need to work with, again, right? Make the calculation. If you're going to charge 10,000 plus per month, you need to start working with really mid to large size businesses, most likely businesses with at least 50 employees, right? And these businesses many times also need audits. They need to know where to start with AI automation, right? They need that education. Okay, what is the best approach for us to really make AI this priority? And the thing with this too is, once you start working with bigger and bigger clients, they actually become easier and easier to work with. Of course, there's a lot of work involved, but many times the people who pay less and the small SMBs, because they have a lot to lose, they are also the toughest clients to manage, right? So if you can get to this model, and again, that's why I'm saying this might be the toughest phase. right? So see it as a stage. You're gonna get out of it. And once you're here, you might only have to work with 3 or 4 or 5 companies that are actually a lot more pleasant to work with. And you can really have a scalable AI business, right? And the key focus is here in this stage is to really start scaling a team, right? The only way you're going to be able to manage this is by having more engineers. Now, generally, the way you want to do this is by hiring account managers who maintain the client relationship and manage a team of engineers that build out the project, right? So you want to have account managers and engineers. In this phase, you also really want to build that credibility, testimonials, case studies, etc. Because generally, mid to large size businesses, they need that. They need to see that other big companies or companies their size have worked with you and have seen results with them. And because you're going to scale a team, you really have to start building these processes and SOPs so you can hand that over to the new hires and the new people that start working with you. And this, again, can take time, but there's a huge need. This is only going to grow if you're into the AI automation agency model right now, you're one of the earliest, right? So you will also be one of the earliest transitioning into this, right? But this all can take a few months slash years. So again, don't get it wrong. Just like it's not a silver bullet, right? This one-off project hell where many people are in is tough. It's brutal, right? But you will get out there if you stay consistent and focus on the right things. Once you transition, it only becomes more fun, right? I can tell you on our side, we are very, very close to closing a client on a 7-figure a month deal, an enterprise client. So we can literally hit that 100K MRR mark with one client only. Is it going to take a lot of our resources and time and effort? Yes. But it just shows you the potential of if you stick to this and really focus on the right things, right? You can really scale this into a really interesting business. And just to finish it off, what is the best path? What is the best business model? And what should you choose? This really depends on you, right? And it's important sometimes to take a step back and really think, what do I want, right? What type of business do I want to run in the long term? What do I want my life to look like in the mid to long term? Because many people overlook this. They blindly jump in, but don't actually take the time to think where do they want to head. And it is important because it will define what you have to focus on today. And second of all, many people blindly just follow other people's success stories where oftentimes you don't actually see the sacrifices behind the curtains without actually thinking what they want. So this really depends on 3 factors: your preference. First of all, what type of business do you want to run, right? Do you want a product type business or more of a service type business? Are you more of a people person, right? Do you like to work with people, manage people, etc.? Or are you more interested in building cool products, etc.? Me personally, I have managed a lot of people in my life, also in my previous company, but I don't consider myself an amazing manager. And I'm much more of a product person. That's why I'm personally following much more of that productized route. We do still run our custom AI automation agency, but I'm less involved in that. So I can focus more on what I like, which is building products. Now, the second thing there also is, what is your goal, right? Do you want to build a $1 billion company? Do you want to go as big as possible? Because that's going to mean you're going to have to make some sacrifices, right? And you're probably not going to get there with a service type business. So then you probably want to go the SaaS route. Now, me personally, I don't have any ambition to make $1 billion or become a billionaire. I am much happier, I notice, if I have some freedom in my life, do what I enjoy on a day to day. And of course, I want to make some money, but I don't have to make $1 billion, right? So if you're happy running maybe a 6-figure or 7-figure business, have some more freedom in your life, right? Running your own business, creating your own teams, then a service business is definitely a great option too, right? And probably a much safer option. It also define much of your lifestyle. If you're going the $1 billion route, the $1 billion SaaS route, right, you're going to sacrifice a lot, right? You're going to sacrifice probably 10, 15 years of your life of grinding to potentially maybe cash in really big, right? But if you don't want that and you want to have a better lifestyle in the meantime, a service type business is definitely interesting. And that's why I think the productized route is so interesting. You don't have to make that decision from the get-go. You can slowly but surely productize and then decide if you even want to go the SaaS route eventually. Because even if you're selling pre-built AI systems, right, you're really doubling down on one niche, you can really scale an interesting business to 6 or 7 figures without having to go all in, right? And then the second thing is, of course, your situation. What is your personal situation at the moment? Do you have kids? Do you have a job currently? How much time do you have and how much time are you willing to invest, right? If you don't have that much time, you probably don't want to go all in on a SaaS right away. You want to start out small, maybe offering some services, etc. Also, what does your financial situation look like? How much are your ongoing costs, right? How much cash do you have in the bank and how much cash are you willing to invest in this venture, in this pursuit, right? If you have high ongoing costs, maybe not that much cash in the bank, you probably don't want to jump into trying to build a SaaS right away, and approach it more from a service business at the start, at least. Right. And lastly, what are your strengths and expertise, right? What's your experience? Because this is going to help you a lot when building the business, right? Do you maybe have you worked in an agency? Do you know how an agency works? And that's going to help you a lot if you're developing a service type business. Or do you have startup experience like me? Of course, I've run a SaaS for 5 years. So I really know how to build products, how to manage product teams. So that's why that experience really helps me going more that productized route. And there, of course, the last factor is your domain expertise. How much do you know of a specific industry? How much have you been solving one specific problem for one specific industry already? If you've done that for many years, jumping into a more productized business might make more sense because you really already have that domain expertise and you might be closer to product market fit. And how much technical expertise do you have? Are you just starting out learning these tools, or have you been a coder all your life? These can all make an impact in what type of business is best. There is no best choice. The best choice is the one you make. But the key takeaway I want to give you here is take a step back and think, what do I really want, right? And what do I want to sacrifice for this? And don't just blindly follow what other people tell you to do or their success stories, because a lot of times you don't see the sacrifices in the back, and you really want to think about how you want your life to look like. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you want to work closer with me and my team, you can also check out my community where we try to help people at least get their AI business off the ground and help them scale their AI business. Also, if you're interested in learning more about how we build these productized AI systems, you can also check out my last video, which I'll link up here. And if you got any value out of this video, I highly appreciate a like and a subscribe. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.